Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl performance has us doing some deep diving. And in his Not Like Us song, he had a reference to a John Stockton. Not Like Us was released in May of 2024 and emerged from Lamar's ongoing beef with fellow rapper Drake. Now, among several pop culture references and double entendres, Stockton was directly mentioned in the song. It's too many options. I'm finna pass on this body. I'm John Stockton, Lamar says on the track.
People in my life, my kids all know about this song, and they frankly knew it was coming. So I think everybody was kind of huddled around the TV to see if my name got mentioned at halftime of a Super Bowl, which it did. I know that my wife's phone started ringing kind of incessantly after that, and she spent the rest of the game texting back and forth for all the people that saw it. So it was apparently a big deal. My grandfather won the NFL, the championship in 1926. He threw the touchdown pass to Two Bits Holman for the Frankfurt Yellow Jacket. They became the Philadelphia Eagles for $2,500 and 25% of the debt. So I guess I was pulling for the Eagles for family reasons.
I have a different theory. Now, the mention led to a busy night for Stockton's wife, Nada, who was bombarded by messages from friends who watched the performance. He said, "My wife's phone started ringing kind of incessantly after that, and she spent the night of the game texting back and forth for all the people that saw it, and apparently it was a big deal." Now, during his time with the Jazz, Stockton was named to 10 All-Star teams, 11 All-Star NBA teams, and 5 All-Defensive teams. How noble of you, John. But you played yourself. That's good. Now, this 2021 article says that John Stockton and Karl Malone share MVP honors after helping the West outlast the East 135 to 132 in OT. Who? Karl Malone. Yeah, Karl Malone. Okay, so it says hometown favorites and pick and roll partners. John Stockton and Karl Malone paced the West squad to an overtime win, with Malone scoring 28 points and Stockton the NBA's all-time assist leader, racking up 15 assists. I'm finna pass on this body. I'm John Stockton. Now that sounds more like it. Now it says the game marked the passing of the torch. In many respects, Michael Jordan, who scored a game high 30 points, played in his last All-Star game before leaving the NBA for the first time, though he eventually played in 5 more. Isaiah Thomas, a 12-time All-Star, played in his last All-Star game. A starter in his finale, Thomas had 8 points and 4 assists in 32 minutes. A big rookie from LSU, Orlando's Shaquille O'Neal, played in the first of his 12 games. In his 18-year career, Shaq would be selected to 15 games and earn All-Star MVP 3 times. Charlotte Ford Larry Johnson became the first All-Star for the Hornets franchise, scoring 4 points. The MVP of the 1992-93 season, Charles Barkley, made his debut on the West All-Star team as a member of the Suns after 6 seasons as an East All-Star, and he finished with 16 points and 7 rebounds. At All-Star Weekend, Cavs guard Mark Price won the first of his back-to-back three-point contest titles. Heat rookie Harold Miner, dubbed by some as Baby Jordan, he took home his first of 2 career slam dunk contest titles. Now look at Kendrick, got us going back in history on all kind of things. Baseball? Sorry, basketball. This was a football game, but here we are learning some history about basketball. I wonder why. I wonder why. So, who's passing on who? Karl Malone? Okay, what's that about? Well, in an article in 2021, it says that Karl Malone has fired up for Tuesday as Utah Jazz prepare to host Old Foe Clippers. So, what does that mean? That Karl Malone sat in front of his statue. He has a statue, y'all, at Vivid Smart Home Arena Monday, the day before the Utah Jazz host the LA Clippers in the opening game of a playoff series between the two teams. Back home, one tweet said with a picture of the statue of Malone with a human version standing in its shadow before a follow up with a video on the next tweet. Maybe it means the former player will attend the next game, or maybe it means nothing. But when the Basketball Hall of Famer power forward shows up in Utah, lights a cigar, and says, "Giddy up, cowboy," you know the rest. When they used to call him the mailman, they say because he always delivers the mail. And they say Jazz fans will definitely take note. A video of the mailman in front of the statue honoring his career with the team that drafted him in front of its arena was posted by Twitter account KJ Malone, Karl Malone's son, who played football at LSU a very briefly, and very briefly in the NFL. Really? He has another son that played football. We'll talk about him in a minute. Someone is fired up for tomorrow, that tweet said, with a video that starts with the statue of Malone's teammate, John Stockton, also a Hall of Fame. So we get the reference of the two, right? But we're focusing on Malone. He's highly decorated, huh? The video pans to the ultimate power forward who puffs on a cigar, removes his sunglasses, and speaks cryptically and briefly. Karl Malone and fans will remember some of his outstanding playoff performances against the Clippers. I wonder what else will they remember. In 1992, Stockton and Malone, sometimes called the Statues, and local media led the Jazz past the Clippers in the midst of the LA riots surrounding Rodney King. The mailman, that's Karl Malone, he averaged 29.8 points and 12 rebounds, but also more than 2 blocks per game in a 3-2 5-game series win. Now, Stockton was great too, with averages of 16 points, 16 assists, and 3.6 rebounds and 2 steals in the series. Now, the team fell to Portland in the Western Conference Finals. And the two teams met again in 1997 when the Jazz were an elite NBA team that won the Midwest Division title and 64 regular season games. The Jazz swept the Clippers in 3 games. The mailman delivered 30.7 points, 11.3 rebounds, 2 assists, and 1.3 steals in the series. Stockton, bolstered by Jeff Honorick, only averaged 14.3 points and 11.3 assists and 4.3 rebounds and 2 steals against the overmatched Clippers. Now, the Jazz lost to the Bulls in the NBA Finals. The Jazz also defeated the Clippers in the first round of the 2017 playoffs, but without Stockton or Malone, instead fearing Gordon Hayward and Rudy Gobert. Now, Joe Johnson memorably scored 28 points in a Jazz game for victory. Now, the 2021 version of Malone still looks lean and muscled, although with gray in his beard. It isn't known for the 6'9" power forward, and he would be in the arena for game one Tuesday or game two Thursday. But to make such a notable appearance outside of the arena, it sure seems possible, if not likely. Fans paying hundreds of dollars for lower bowl tickets probably will be glad to see a jazz legend such as Malone, as the current roster tries to establish itself as an all time great team with the best record in the NBA. That's not all, is it? Of course not. Of course not. But that's what they chose to say about him at that time. Let's see what else we can find. Now, guys, I'm very disturbed by not only the information that I found, but the way that it was reported by multiple sources over the years. Shout out to the podcasters and YouTubers who completely just, denounced this situation, regardless of his accolades and everything he's done in sports. You see the picture of him and Drake there, and the story behind that is Drake was saying they were neighbors and they hung out and went to watch a game together, something like that. I don't know. But he, gosh, back in 2023, he was invited, Karl Malone was invited to be one of the judges in the 2023 NBA All Star Weekend Slam Dunk Contest. And it featured some of the league's most amazing high flyers. And they got a lot of negative reactions and criticisms for the selection of this controversial ex player. Now, why is that, guys? What do you think that is about? Now, some of you guys may know about this, and guess what? A lot of us didn't, but we do now, thanks to Kendrick Lamar. Now, and I will also ask you after hearing this, if you didn't know, and even if you did know, when you heard John Stockton say that that reference had to be about his family and not even mentioning his own history in sports, do you think that knowing what the allegations, a minor, and all of that was about, that he really do you think he really thought that? Guys, come on now. Cut it out, dude. Cut it out. Yeah, but I guess he got a chance to tell about the amazing things that his, what was he saying? I don't even remember. Cause boy bye, that was not it. Well, how are we gonna get the reference? Like, okay, sir, how did you think you were gonna pull that off? Cause all those Easter eggs that Kendrick's been dropping in, we ain't even close to April. It's cold. It's cold. So you thought that we would be like, oh, he mentioned it because your father. Okay, I can see the football reference, but that just won't cut it here. It won't, because oh boy, you wait till I start talking about triple X, XXX Tentacion, but that's another video. Okay, back to this guy. So 2023, right? They invited him to be one of the judges. Now, these articles that I have been finding about this guy, he has been just participating and participating and participating in sports, and they speak so highly of him, and they do not mention his past, his dark past at all. Now, one article did mention it, and then they said, but it was but. And then they mentioned all his contributions, and they said that basically they said it supersedes it. Don't make me pull the article up because I'm trying to calm on down. But we gonna talk about what he did. Okay, we're gonna talk about what he did. Okay, so now they do say that Karl Malone is one of the most dominant forwards in NBA history. And I believe it. I mean, I know who he was. I know who the mailman was. So, okay. They said, however, um, before he entered the Professional Basketball League, Malone attended Louisiana Tech University. Now, during his college days, the young basketball player reportedly, they say reportedly, because you reported it? Because somebody, okay, but it happened though. It happened. The guy's alive. He has a name. There was a DNA test done. He's his son. There's a whole lot to this story that we know that this is a fact. A fact. Carmelo was 20 years old. He was 20 years old. And he got someone pregnant, y'all. He got someone pregnant. Okay. That's no big deal. Guys do stuff like that all the time. Yeah. But see, what had happened was she was 13. I know it's Louisiana, okay, but I said she was 13. Do you understand me? Her name was Gloria Bell, okay, and she had a son. See, it's just messing with my throat every time I try to get it out. I had to pause. I had to. Okay, but we gonna do this. Demetrius. She named him Demetres. Some of you guys may know who he is because this article says he's a popular NBA star. I mean, I'm sorry. Uh, I'm a girl, y'all, so just bear with me. He's a popular NFL star. Football. So, okay, we went back to football. Okay, all right. Um, this was in 1984. You do the math. Okay? You do the math. How old was the man back then? He wasn't nowhere near 13. He was a grown man. Okay, she was 13. She was 13. All right, so she gave birth to Demetrius Bell in 1984, and it was just 1 year before the 6'9" forward was drafted in the Utah Jazz. Listen, honey, let me tell y'all something. 6'9". He was 6 feet 9 inches. We know how tall that is. He was a giant. Okay, he was a giant. She was 13. Did she play basketball? I mean, was she anywhere close to being that height? She was 13. How did this happen? How did this happen? How? A big old giant. Gloria's parents another article I read, because this article says eventually, another article I read said it was 2 years later that they took him to court, okay, for paternity. Okay? He the pappy. He still didn't pay child support. I don't even think he got a child support order because of his promising future. Why else not? See, this is the thing. These guys that have these talents, these skills, or these high connections, money, influence, they get away with a lot of stuff. They get away with a lot of stuff. And thankfully, there were people along the years who just did not like this, and they would speak out about it. And so the story carried on. The story carried on because let me tell you about the mailman, because he didn't deliver no mail to Demetrius or Gloria. He did not. It sure wasn't in the form of checks. He did not take care of his child at all. Gloria's parents eventually took him to court for paternity, and then they later settled out of court, and he was never charged with the things he should have been charged with. Okay. Now, during his time with Louisiana Tech University, Malone was a bright basketball. So we don't even care, but they're going to continue to throw his accolades in our faces throughout these articles. Okay. He played 3 seasons for the team, averaging 18.7 points and 9.3 rebounds per game. Now, the question is, did they know about this when they pulled him in? Y'all answer me this. Do you think they knew? Hmm. Do they check out players when they draft them, when they scout them, when they do they check them out? Because they want to know if he's going to be a problem, right? So, I mean, that's a pretty big deal. And you had to go to court, so there's court record. Listen, Linda, I do believe that these people knew, and because look at how he is just highly decorated, and just they walk 2023, they welcome him back. This story has resurfaced over the years from people calling him out over the years, and he still is being highlighted by the system. This is insane. This is insane. Said while the power forward was an incredible basketball player, his off the court behavior came under intense scrutiny. He was under fire for, again, reportedly, they're saying it reportedly when it actually happened. It actually happened. He impregnated a 13-year-old girl, hence the term statutory, you know, for listen, if they can literally do away with the I was gonna say OVO owl, but it's the Duolingo owl. I knew something was creepy about that company. I knew something was creepy about that owl, and I just could not. I just could not. Y'all remember the Duolingo owl? Do you know the do? You know he posted Say Drake, and he did the little face, and then right after that, they're doing this whole thing about he's gone. He got hit by a cyber truck and he is deceased, literally deceased. Then they said all of the characters are now also deceased. I don't know how they got offed, but the Duolingo owl got offed right after posting that the smug smile and say Drake. I gotta find it. They probably scrubbed the internet of it. Listen, this is some weird stuff, okay? This is some weird stuff. Shout out to Kendrick. He's the man. J. Cole, yeah, y'all, I'm from Vietnam. Okay, Vietnam is Fayetteville, North Carolina. But J. Cole, I'm sorry, but sir, you let us down. You're an embarrassment. People say that would have been like the Nas and Jay-Z beef, and I would have been but just I don't think J. Cole even had the confidence. I mean, but this needed to happen, so I'm giving him a pass for that. But other than that, I don't listen to J. Cole no more. I don't have no more respect for him. But anywho, back to this, y'all. Back to this. And you see, I'm trying to take my mind off of it because the story is just infuriating. It really, really is. He had a relationship with this girl to some degree, okay, because they're saying that they were intimate to a point where she wasn't claiming that he violated her. It was something that she did with him, but she is not old enough to consent. So I can't even use that word. I can't even use that word. But he had a child with her, and aftermath was pretty bad, but clearly not bad enough. Clearly not bad enough. Okay, so the page keeps jumping. I don't know why, but it keeps jumping. But we're gonna get it out. So Demetrius Bell, okay, blah, 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 blah. They had a settlement. He was never charged. And he was under fire. And her parents took the young basketball star to court for a paternity lawsuit. And they want him alone to pay child support for the said son. Said son. Listen to this, y'all. Said son, but they ended up reaching a settlement out of court. It probably wasn't even that much. He was just at the beginning of his career. So, what? You took some coins. Okay. Despite the nature of the misconduct allegations, they're calling it allegations with a minor. Carl Malone was never charged. Okay, they're repeating it. Okay, cool. I guess they want us to know that, but bro, he did it. Okay. And it's funny how they conveniently don't mention the age that he was at the time, but bro, we can do math. We can do math. We can do math. Bell's family simply wanted the Utah Jazz legend to acknowledge his son and pay for child support. Huh. According to an AP report from 1998, Malone refused to pay monetary support for his child, and he completely refused to acknowledge that he was the father, which is something that has impacted his reputation negatively in retrospect. Okay, so listen, it may not be that deep. However, for somebody it might. So y'all might do this. I don't got that kind of time. I'm in midterms right now. But listen, they took him to court for paternity. So he had to do a paternity test because it's no doubt that the child is his. He spoke out. Um, One of the sons that this guy has had in his marriage, he spoke out about it. He did a whole video on behalf of his father saying, "Oh, it was a mistake. It was one time. He's not a PDF file because it was just one time and it was a mistake." It's not a mistake when you're a whole adult in your 20s and the girl is 13 years old. What is wrong with him? He's a good dad. He takes care of us. He does everything for us, and he has a relationship with Demetri. Demetrius spoke out about it. We're going to get to that. Okay, let's go. Let's go. So Malone's son turned out to be a fantastic foot. The article keeps jumping back to the top of the page. I don't understand why it's doing that. Um, okay, so he turned out to be a football player. He was a football player. He's a fantastic athlete. He became a football player. Demetrius Bell was drafted in the 7th round in 2008 and ended up playing 5 seasons in the NFL, starring in 35 games. Awesome. So Karl Malone eventually approached him and started working on their father-son relationship. Listen, shout out to that man because I don't know. First of all, you did that with my mom and she was 13. Secondly, you didn't even care about how I got on in life. You left me without your guidance, you being in my life. You didn't help us financially, and you were in it was the NBA. You were an NBA star, and just but good for him. Okay, good for him because I don't think I could. I don't think I could. Unless he broke it, he needed money. I mean, I'm saying I can't fund him for that, but so they rekindled their relationship in 2014. That wasn't even that long ago. The two eventually became very close and reportedly started talking almost every day. So the fans, and the people were going off about that. They were pretty mad about that. Now, let's go to Demetrius, because Demetrius has spoken out about this, and I want to bring up some of his earlier comments and things like that, because of course now they have a relationship. So this article is from, I don't know why it's giving me such a hard time, but this article is from 2008, y'all. Okay, so that's way before 2014. So it says, this is by Jamel Hill. I know y'all know who she is, right? This is how Demetrius Bell drafted a couple of weeks ago by the Buffalo Bills in the 7th round. Okay. He describes his relationship with his father. I treat it as if my mother went to the sperm bank. I don't hate him for not being in my life. It made me a better person. But it's pretty hard to reduce your father to DNA in this DNA dispenser when everyone else in the world knows him as the NBA's second leading scorer of all time, a 2-time Olympic gold medalist, and arguably the greatest power forward ever. Yes, Bell's father is Karl Malone, and if you're wondering why you never heard of Bell or seen these two engaged in any father-son moments, it's because Malone apparently wants nothing to do with him. Malone has never, oh my God, the story of Adidon. Malone has never publicly spoken about Bell and any attempts that were made to contact Malone through the NBA office, but he never responded. It's hard to tell, man. I don't know if I can forget. Okay, it's hard to tell which is more astonishing, that Malone actually feels this way, or that Bell was even able to overcome the heartbreaking reality of being rejected by a parent. Now, what matters most is that Bell triumphed in spite of how his father behaved, and he grew up in Summerfield, LA, Malone's hometown, and he earned a basketball scholarship to Northwestern State, nearly 2.5 hours away from Summerfield. And everyone there describes Bell as a gem. Oh, okay, that's great. So when I called the school, this is Jamel speaking, to find out more about Bell, the sports information director talked nonstop about how polite and well-liked and determined Bell is. Malone aside, Bell's story is unbelievable. He thought about he was going to be a big-time basketball star like you know who, and he didn't start playing football until 3 years ago. Now, the football staff looked at Bell's size and relative speed and hatched the idea that Bell would make an outstanding defensive end, and he played that position in 2005, appearing in just one game. The next season, he was pressed into duty as an offensive tackle 3 weeks before the season started, after 22 straight starts. And Bell became an All-American, a first-team All-Southern League Conference selection, and now a proud NFL player. Plus, Bell is expected to graduate this spring. I was crying, Bell said, when he asked what was it like to be drafted. I was just so happy. Bell isn't the only one. He isn't the only child to fall victim to this rather heinous pick and roll. Bell is one of 3 children Malone has fathered outside of wedlock, although he is the only one who Malone has apparently refused to have a relationship with. Malone's other 2 children outside of his marriage are fraternal twins, Daryl and Cheryl Ford. Both of them played basketball at Louisiana Tech, like their father, and Cheryl is a forward in the WNBA's Detroit Shock. In fact, you may have seen the Louisiana tourism commercial featuring Cheryl Ford and her famous father, who finally appeared in his twins' children's lives when they were 17. Bell lost out on the father lottery. According to Bell, Malone told him it was too late for him to be his father and he had to make it on his own. Child. Nice to meet you too, Dad. I grew up around good people, Belle said. I never turned to a father figure. I was lucky I didn't need one. I'm happy I don't need nothing else. If Al Sharpton is itching to picket something, he should organize a protest outside Malone's house since the National Fatherhood Initiative says 2 out of 3 African American children grow up without a father in their home. Roger Clemens allegedly ceded indiscretions, including a possible relationship with a 15-year-old. It's nothing compared to what Malone has done, though. Malone reportedly impregnated Belle's mother when she was 13. No, reportedly he did. She was 13. And he was a sophomore. He was a sophomore at Louisiana Tech College. Malone is lucky Chris Hansen wasn't around and he didn't have to answer to the authorities. It would be one thing if Malone was unable to financially provide for his son, but he made more than $100 million during his NBA career. The Salt Lake City, Utah Tribune reported that when Belle's grandparents initially took Malone to court for paternity in 1986, his second year with the Jazz, they requested Malone to pay $200 a week. Malone didn't respond to the suit, but a Louisiana judge ruled he was the father. After paternity tests, okay, here we go. Don't know about y'all. Don't even go. Listen, here it is. The paternity test said, "Boy, that's your baby." In 1986, his second year with the Jazz. Okay, yeah. Um, and they ordered him to pay 125 a week. Houseway, plus past and future medical expenses. Malone claimed that that was too much, and he later reached a confidential out-of-court settlement with Bell. If that was too much, can you imagine how much he gave them? Come on, the parents, listen, I'm sorry, but I only got the kind of time to say the things I want to say, which is good. All right, so it was between 1988 and 99. They reached 89. I'm sorry, they reached the settlement. And worse is that Bell has developed a good relationship with Cheryl and Daryl, who also grew up in Summerfield. And the three have gone fishing together, and Bell described them as a tight-knit group. Though one can't help but wonder if Cheryl hadn't started her father's alma mater and gone on to play professionally, would Malone have felt so inclined to reappear in her life? Ooh. If the media hadn't done so many stories about her, Cheryl was following her dad's footsteps, would we have ever seen Malone in the stands when his daughter won the WNBA championship in 2003? So I just can't fathom how someone can't acknowledge their own child, said ESPN NBA analysis Jalen Rose, who had a nearly non-existent relationship with his father, Jimmy Walker, a basketball legend at Providence, and the number one pick in the 1967 NBA draft. So it's just trash. It's all kind of trash out here in these streets. Rose spoke to his father for the first time 9 years ago. But he was fortunate in the sense that when his father played in the NBA, he wasn't as popular as it is now. Well, the NBA wasn't as popular, and Walker didn't have the same distinguished career that Malone had. So the first time Rose and Walker met was at Walker's funeral last year. Okay. Wow. I know about kerosene heaters, sugar milk, and syrup sandwiches, Rose said. Those are the days when I was bitter and personal. But I went to college. I became an All-American. I had a great NBA career. I had to realize that it was God's plan for God's plan. I was healthy and happy. And it wasn't like I was living under some freeway. So Rose did admit that when he was growing up, his father's abandonment drove him to be both a great player and a good student. And he wanted to show his father what a huge mistake he made, okay? And by not being a part of his life. And it's the reason that Rose chose number 42 when he was at Southwestern High School in Detroit. He knew his father wore 24. He went backwards on that ad, okay? So I wanted sorely, okay, they have a picture of Malone and Cheryl and her trophy and all that. I'm not posting that. I wanted sorely to let him know my name and rub it in his face and let him know what he was missing out on, Rose said. Bell says that he has nothing to prove to Malone, although no one could blame him if he secretly wanted to show his old man. I asked Bill, what would he do if his father called him up one day ready to be where he has never been? He said, it's something I haven't thought about, and I'm really not ready to talk about it, Bill said. I just don't know right now. Absentee father certainly isn't the image most have of Malone, especially in Summerfield and Salt Lake City. They know in his own city they didn't know about this, where he is revered. Oh my God. In fact, in 2003, Utah Governor Mike Liviat presented Malone with and his wife Kay with a special declaration to commend and thank Kay and Malone for their incredible service, friendship, and generosity to the state of Utah. And they didn't know. They didn't know. In the press release, Malone's frequent visits to sick children were praised. Kendrick, you sent us here. As well as Carl Malone's Foundation for Kids, which aids children and families in need, except his own firstborn. It makes his apparent reluctance to be a father to Bill that much more astounding, especially when you consider that Malone also grew up fatherless. Malone's father committed, that he did his own self when he was 3 years old. A decade ago, Malone and his wife, with whom he has fathered 4 children, spoke at a conference on families and talked openly about the children Malone has fathered outside of their marriage. Of course, the Malones were talking about Daryl and Cheryl, not Demetrius. Malone told the audience, everything I've been through, everything I'm about to go through in my career, everything in my life, if my family wasn't with me and didn't support me, it would be really tough. Child, listen. Okay. Y'all, what you got? Say, what you got? Leave thoughts, leave your comments. Leave your thoughts, leave your comments. Hey, Stockton, so we're going to tell the real story, okay? I'll see y'all later. Thanks, Kendrick. We love you.
Trying to strike a chord and it's
A minor. A minor.